Today, this is a more of an in-person edition of the commongear.com podcast we normally do. I'm joined here with Lars, who lives 10 minutes away from me, and for the first time ever, we were actually doing this from the same place, which happens to be my garage. So thank you, Lars, for coming on by. And we are going to talk about 3 cars, as usual, that were found on the auction circuit this week. Bring a trailer, cars and bids, and others like it. It's going to be a total surprise. They are 3 very personal selections from Lars. So we are going to dive into those shortly. And just remember, if you want to track your vehicles, records, invoices, anything that adds value, we've shown that on the commongear.com, when you store those records in a digital format and go to sell your vehicle, you are likely to see an upward to 10 to 20% increase in sale price. So be sure to check us out. It's completely free to join and store your records with us. And we'll talk more about that later. But right now we want to jump into this, which I think this is going to be our 26th edition of the podcast, maybe around 26,
this 27. Is 26 or 27. Actually,
yeah.
I actually have the drive hooked up right now, so I can tell you it is. This will be episode number 27, Jeff.
27. Wow. All right. Well, so let's first up an SUV 2013 X5M in what looks like, I think, the best color for one of these. What do we call this? Monte Carlo blue. It's not Laguna Seca blue. Monte Carlo blue. Still a great color. Twin turbo V8. Oh boy, this is killer spec. Sport package, cold weather package. All the bells and whistles. This is about as loaded as an X5 can get. And really, if you want a sporting SUV, outside of a Cayenne, I don't know if it gets much better than this. It's $34,000. That is a lot of car for the money. And I guarantee you, the original purchase price was probably damn near, if not over 6 figures when it was new. So Lars, this is your rodeo tonight. So I'm going to kick it over to you to start off with.
Of course.
Why this rang your bell?
So this is just overall, you guys see today, like especially Dodge is doing with the with all the Hellcat stuff, the sport SUVs are very much in, so much so that even Lamborghini and Ferrari are coming out with one, the Urus and Ferrari. I'm not sure what they're calling theirs, but bottom line, it's a really popular thing right now, the high horsepower family haulers. So this is a first gen X5M. They initially came out in 2010, I believe, but this is the first generation body style. It's a beast of an engine, 550 horsepower, twin turbo V8. It's got all the features you could want. Ride quality is great. I actually was lucky enough to drive one of these we had on a trade. Just a phenomenal car, 6-speed automatic, but it shifts very close to DCT. It's not quite a DCT, but the transmission is phenomenal. I think for the price, because as Jeff said, these are 6-figure cars. If you're looking for a new one, 2023, I mean, you're probably going to be spending 120, 130. I think for 15, 20% of that price, you're in a pretty good spot here. Only silver lining, this thing 10 years old, out of warranty. If something does go wrong, it's probably going to be a pretty big issue. I mean, this engine's no joke, but you kind of take that gamble. Overall, it's just a hot deal. And in the world of all these sports SUVs, you roll up with one that's a decade old that you got for $30K and you can still smoke everyone. Thing's okay in my book. I like that car a lot. And great color. It's kind of like the Estoril, but a little bit darker.
Right. Yeah.
Not as in your face, which is phenomenal.
It's definitely, BMW's, M Motorsports cars, the blue, whatever the shade of the day was as it related to a blue color with the motorsport package, that was probably the it color for that model.
E92 M3, E30 M5. I mean,
even the E46 in Laguna Seca was just stunning. I'm going to be short and sweet on this one, John. I'll turn it over to you. I agree with everything Lars said. I think this is, I know this would be an absolutely amazing SUV to use every day, like legitimate high performance anything. The only thing that always holds me back from these is I don't remember all the advice my mechanic has given me over the years, which is evident in the vehicles I buy. But I will say he he will always say, like, BMW does not know how to make a V8.
Really?
And this one has turbos.
And this one has twin turbos on it. So, like, just not that I guess when you say don't know how to make it, it's more like, yeah, they can put it together, but he'll always say, like, Mercedes-Benz can make a V8 that, well, you can just beat on for years. He's like, when a customer brings him an out of warranty 8-cylinder BMW with mechanical needs of any kind, he is pretty much running a credit check on you before he does any work, because so many people buy these things
and they don't. That's the
and
thing.
they have zero concept of
Right.
what it takes to fix it. So anyway, that's just, I mean, like Lars said, hopefully you're buying one of these, what you're getting into, because I mean, it is a very slippery, so it's very fast slope from paying 34 grand to all of a sudden staring at in all seriousness, a $15,000-$20,000 repair bill. If something catastrophic should occur. And I don't even mean catastrophic from like transmission dropping out. I just mean basic deferred maintenance. So,
Right.
It's a dance with the devil for sure.
It definitely is a dance with the devil, guys. And, I love the vehicle. I think it's a great color. The motor is amazing. What you guys were talking about was with the whole service cost is what scares me with this vehicle. It really does. And if you look at prices of these, I mean, we look at this and we say, okay, 2013 X5M 34 on face value, we're like, yeah, great, great deal. But if you look at what else is out there, like what these have sold for, even on Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids, this is actually a little tinge higher. I mean, this is just looking at the data. This is the highest price one of these is sold on Bring a Trailer for. And if you jumped over to Cars and Bids, there are some that have gone higher and there are a lot that have gone lower. So there is that almost scare. Maybe it's mileage, maybe it's the scare factor, but on face value, it's a heck of a deal. When you dig and think about it, you're like, I'm not so 100% sure. I think there's better deals that we're going to talk about tonight. But it is one hell of a color, and that is one hell of an engine. But this is for what it's worth. I mean, if you're going to daily drive this thing, just be ready to have your, as Jeff said, make sure your credit's really good.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. The color played a factor here. Because even what's interesting too is like just such a gap, right? Because you can get into the turbo diesel, which is actually a pretty great car. This one right here, which is a sport, has sport package, turbo diesel, 20 grand, and has more miles. But I think this power plant is a little bit less known for catastrophic failure. So I mean, if you're hard on an X5, there, in all honesty, there are better choices out there. But I mean, I think someone here said it's worth the roll of the dice for what amounts to about like an extra 10 grand over the cost of a comparable one to get into an M with pretty much every box checked on the options list. So I mean, I would be tempted by it too, but at the same time, for this money, I think I'm buying a G-Wagon.
Really?
A G500. Yeah, 100%. Not
Why
even
is
the
that?
G50. Well, because
You can't like a G-Wagon.
The durability factor, the known.
What's wrong with the G-Wagon?
No, you know what it is? It's the same chassis they've been making since the 60s, and they just dress it up.
That's what makes it cool.
I don't
Yeah,
I don't think that's an issue. I think that's almost like a good thing.
But now it's almost like they've turned it into such a celebrity luxury item.
Oh, yeah.
And people kind of praise it for that and not really what it was. I think it's cool they've been using the same chassis, I suppose, but it's not really in the spirit of what it initially was, like a 4x4 utility vehicle. I almost feel like if you're going to go that route, get the, the Cayenne GTS. That thing's like 220K.
Yeah.
If you really want a crazy, or a Urus even, and I'm not a Urus fan.
Oh, well, I see. But
If you're going to spend $250,000 on an SUV, you got a couple options.
But do you think people that are buying these SUVs are already, in addition to the SUV, they have another car by said brand in their garage?
No, that's a good point. And I can't just say it's stupid because, I mean, their sales are great on those. So obviously that's an opinion, right?
Right. but it is a status.
It is. I just don't know if it resonates with me.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, unfortunately, the people buying the G-Wagon these days have they've sort of killed.
Would you want?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a status
don't-
symbol.
I will agree with that. I don't like who I see driving it, but that's what almost motivates me to buy one and put it on Steelies.
Put it on Steelies and
and-
lock the diffs and put on big mud tires.
Exactly. And just camouflage it in military.
But
spec the way it meant to be.
with this X5 we're talking about, there's a high probability that the person who bought this car has another M product in their garage.
Oh yeah,
this is an M fan who bought this.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a 10-year-old performance car. It's not like someone's in the market for a BMW SUV. They were looking for one of these.
Right.
Right.
There's actually some decent bidding on this as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, guys, it is a great car. I'm pretty sure you push a button and the suspension stiffens up. Like it's a great car.
Got all the bells and whistles. But and final thought is if you have the ability to buy something like this new,
you're a stud.
But also get one in whatever the cool blue color is.
Yeah.
Get the M package.
You have to get the M package
because you're going to see the money. I mean, yeah, this is massive depreciation, but still, for a risky SUV with 60,000 miles on it to get 34 grand out of it, that's pretty.
I almost feel like
it's worth the risk. It's like worth the risk.
Yeah,
I think we know it's a risky. I mean, there's been cars where we've talked about it's like, oh god, no, you're in trouble. But with this, it's like you're willing to almost tempt fate.
Honestly, if you get a good year out of this.
I don't know if it's that bad.
I would agree with you on that.
No, guys. I mean, it's like what that would just
a couple years out. Well, it also depends on how long you're going to drive.
How many miles? How many miles?
60, I think. 60,000.
Dude, you're saying all of them can't last. You could probably get 120 before you start getting sketched out. Also, whoever had this, you guys know he threw the whole service catalog at the thing.
I would hope so.
I would
hope so.
California car. Anyways, we have been on this one. We are rambling on this one.
Let's
any closing thoughts, John?
No, I think we kind of said it all.
Okay.
All right. Euro-spec. Oh my.
Oh boy, here we go.
54,000.
Before you say anything,
holy shit.
I didn't know this existed. It's an 86.
This is a smoking deal. With the S14. So this is everything.
And it's Euro, so it has the dog leg.
Oh my. Okay, so Lars, take it away. Get us into this car. 86 Euro-spec E30 M3.
Okay, right off the bat, I'm going to say I think the reason it didn't sell the 80 or didn't sell well, $60,000-$70,000. The 86s are kind of unloved. They didn't come with AC, and it's like I didn't even really.
That makes me love it more.
I know, me too. They only made a few in 86. If you look on every website, it'll say 87 through 1990, whatever it is for the M3. 86. This is a really rare car. I think that's kind of almost pushed people off the fact it's an 86, which doesn't make sense. It makes me personally want it more.
Yeah.
Also, I've seen in the United States, the Euro ones almost don't sell for as much. I don't know why that is. This got different hardware in the engine, I believe, has a little bit more horsepower, and you have a dog leg. So it's first, second. No, what would it be? First, second, and then straight down to third.
Right.
Which is so cool. This one, all the Euro cars kind of had a cool interior spec. This one's got the houndstooth
cloth.
Yeah, half cloth houndstooth inners with the M striping. M-Tech 2 steering wheel, which I think was standard on the M3 anyways, right?
The Euro-spec cars, yeah.
Euro-spec cars. I mean, guys, it's so well put together.
I mean, look at that. I love that fact. Like, there's no AC compressor there. It's just motor and ground.
And people were saying in the comments, where's the AC, this and that.
Oh my God. Why would you buy this?
The reason I threw this in is just to kind of show, I think we're getting slightly back down to reality on these things. And this is a car I would.
Well, so I have a real quick immediate thought that popped into my head that I just want to get out there because, a lot of the chatter about how the enthusiast car marketplace blew up over the last 5 to 7 years has been about the fact that a lot of people got into this arena who weren't really diehard sports car enthusiasts.
It was a fad.
It was a fad.
It was like NFTs.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, you can make some money and own a cool car that people will fawn over you. And then all of a sudden,
Look at that thing.
they move on to something else. They become fucking cheese collectors or something. Like they go on to the next fad.
It
And
was
so
very fatty.
it was total like rich guy boredom. Let me just stick my fat fingers in something else that I can drive the price up on and tell my buddies I'm going to make a ton of money. And really, listen, I love sports cars. I think they are fun ways to at least stay flat, not lose money. But the idea of them being like some sort of magical investment device, it's not.
Well, it's a chess piece. It's like a trading cool,
Exactly.
like a bar of gold.
You got to do everything right. You got to buy the car at the right price. You got to find the one that no one knows about. You got to be under the radar the whole time. You cannot buy it from a dealer. So like once those deals are smoked out, and then like all you can do is hope that you can just drive the price up enough artificially to cover your ass. So at some point that runs out. So I mean, I'm just speculating, but when I start seeing things like this, and I mean, the E30 M3 has been for so long trading for crazy money,
Right.
that all of a sudden you've got a genuine Euro-spec left-hand drive.
I can't
Rate
believe
shade,
it, dude.
54K. Like that to me is one of the, and it's like a lot of, again, the chatter won't be, it'll be like, oh, the economy is softening. It's like, no, it's just the guys who really weren't in this for real are finally getting out of it. Maybe that's my hope. I
definitely think it's a little bit of both.
Probably is.
I definitely think during COVID, people had a lot more like disposable money. I know that doesn't make that
Makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all.
Yeah. But that's when we saw high prices
feel
go
like
bananas.
I almost feel like the people who had disposable amounts of money, I should say, were using it. Like bring a trailer. I feel like there's a lot of action on there and a lot of people buying stuff that probably shouldn't have been purchased for that price. And it was really due to scarcity. Like COVID happened and there's a whole thing about the used car market. And
if you were importing something like anything that required some level of logistics to get to you, just stopped.
I mean, we saw some crazy prices that like a year ago, peak COVID, there was some crazy sales going on.
That people were willing to, like, people didn't even question it.
And it doesn't make sense because why would that be happening during a pandemic when everyone's getting fired and the economy is going crazy? But I don't know, John, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, you guys brought up some really good points. I'm, kind of jumping off of that. I'm wondering, has the ceiling kind of broken? Are we out of this crazy bubble sort of thing for collector vehicles, especially like E30 M3s, where you guys talked about like, maybe 2021, we're talking close to 6 figures for a vehicle like this.
Well, without a question.
And as you guys said on the points, we're getting hopefully we're getting back to more the enthusiast market, not someone who's looking at this as more of an asset who don't realize is kind of the importance to an enthusiast. Also, guys, I'm wondering too, like, does mileage matter on a car like this? You guys are more the BMW enthusiast here. I mean, I would say no. I mean, this is I would call this an honest driven car. It has 116,000 miles on it. This isn't the garage queen, showroom piece that's got like, sub 30,000 miles on it. No, this is a properly used, E30 M3. So, my question to you is, does the mileage matter?
So it for some cars, yes. But I mean, the last few years for the E30 M3, it really hasn't.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what its mileage was. If it was intact and had an original S14 under the hood, it was damn near almost always knocking on 6 figures. So to see this one, which looks to be in really nice shape,
it's
does.
Very clean. And they were well taken care of, all the M3s. I will say one thing: the ones that are like sub 30K that you guys are talking about, I feel like the mileage only matters after a certain point. It's almost like over 89.
That's a great point.
It starts to not really matter as much. But for example, there was like a 25,000 mile Evo 2 that sold for, I think it was over 200,000.
Oh yeah.
So something like that,
Well,
but
Yeah.
it's unlikely to repeat itself. You know,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a time capsule car.
Mhm.
And I will say, I mean, that's something that really blows my mind about the true collector market, regardless of speculative pricing and all that, that they will pay through the nose for low mileage. Like that car could have no history other than just something confirming it as low mileage.
Yeah.
Like it could have no maintenance history. It could have, just limited details overall. But if it is a genuine low mileage car, people will just pay anything for it. Like
You're right. You're right.
It's kind of like a weird thing about our society is,
Mhm.
I hate to be graphic, but it's like, the Virgin, right? It's like we just get so wrapped up in, oh, it's the closest thing to untouched. And it's like people pay stupid money for that sort of stuff.
And like you said, it's the idea of there might never be one like this again.
Right.
This might be my only opportunity.
I'm not going to see an Evo 2 with this low mileage for 5 years.
And then once you get that in your head, it's over.
Yeah,
What's also interesting, and Lars, you brought this up, is that you think people may have been scared off it because it's a Euro one. Where it's funny because when we talk about Euro cars in other formats, usually it increases value. Where it's like, it's like
I'm shocked at this.
Yeah,
I'm shocked at this.
The Euro thing is funny.
When we talk about BMWs and stuff like that, everybody's into the Euro type stuff. Whereas like with this car, it's like, okay.
But here's where I'm just going to log another hypothesis at you, which is that, again, the enthusiast I know, you others, love a gray market car because it's more horsepower, it's lighter weight. There usually doesn't have, if it hasn't been federalized, there's no crash bars in the doors. It's got H4 lighting, which is superior in every way to halogen. And so the dog-leg gearbox is probably the most
totally different
character, totally different driving experience.
That no one really jumped on it.
But again, your average Joe, not your average, your investor, as opposed to an enthusiast, none of that stuff matters to them. They don't understand it. They don't get it. It's not, they can't like easily explain it themselves as far as why it's better, superior. So, they just want the car that is easily explained. And so I don't know if that's what happened here. I just know there was a time, like when I was in high school, if you found a gray market anything, you were just like the cat's pajamas, which the fact that I'm saying that phrase reveals how old I am. But the fact of the matter was, gray market was just almost instantly a superior car.
Right.
So I find it so curious in this instance. Now, if it was right-hand drive, I'd say totally, valid, definitely 10%, 15% knock on the price. But a left-hand drive gray market car with what looks like a ton of documentation makes no sense that this car did not do better, but a smoking deal for the buyer. And honestly, Lars sent me a listing for an E30 M3 just a few days ago that was what, 60?
Dude, they're coming back down and I will have one soon.
Yeah.
It was an E30.
I'll have one. I'll have a point. The reason I honestly put this in here is just so we could talk about the fact that this crazy reality of this being an unattainable car is actually coming back down to it. And I will say, I enjoy mine. Jeff has the same one in the back right here. I enjoy mine so much, and it gets looks and thumbs up in a respectful way, and it attracts the right crowd. I could only imagine the road presence and the shape of this thing is just phenomenal. I mean, it is a true 80s like homologation.
It's the homologation 80s special.
Well, it is. I mean, literally, it's the 80s interpretation of the E9 Batmobile.
Dude, it's my favorite car.
How does this car not worth double in 10 to 20 years? I mean, it's just
that's the thing. At 50K, you could drive this, put another like John, what you were saying, if this guy puts 30K on it, I don't think that changes it a bit.
Nope.
Maybe if it goes to 200K,
that's a really good point.
Maybe. But 120 and 145, 120 and 150
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Nope. This is a great car, and I will have one day for sure. If the prices keep going down.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine being this buyer right now and just sitting there saying, I cannot believe I got this car for 54K. Just amazing.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So now let's move on to our third and final, which is this is the one that makes me, do the fist in the teeth. 2002 911 turbo, the Mezger engine, which is as a not fairly newly minted 996 owner, I've now heard from numerous people that the turbo engines in these are just, they have none of the issues of the naturally aspirated car. They don't have the IMS failure. They don't have cylinder wall scoring, boring, whatever the hell it is that goes along with them. They are just overbuilt. They're supposed to be absolutely delightful to drive, and 67.5 for a 35,000 mile example. I mean, you see this and the E30 M3 in the same,
and it makes you question
when you're just
Why?
like, now I'm like, okay, that's past the speculators exiting the market and just more things totally slowing down a bit. Because,
and I also want to note, not to cut you off, but I want to note 67K. This is a little bit more. I was looking through. You could spend 55 and still get a nice one. I mean, 35K is extremely low miles. Last thing I'll say, and then you can take over. But we have a guy local to us. He was at a Cars and Coffee. I missed it, but I saw it on Instagram. He's the original owner. Guy lives in Wakefield. This spec, I think it's Arctic Silver though. 996 turbo, not an S, stick. He has 650K on it. I mean, come on.
he tracks it regularly.
He tracks it. He's just been driving
It's a commuter car.
I mean, think about that. I think it's the original engine.
It's the original engine. He's had it rebuilt once. And the crazy thing about the rebuild is, so at like 400K, he basically just took it to the dealer and said, let's just tear it down. And he tore it down. Like, it looks phenomenal. Like, they were like kind of like,
wow,
you really didn't have to tear it. It's like, it's a good thing we did, because we're going to do some just some smart maintenance. But they were like, they were shocked at how clean the engine still was.
That makes you want to buy one now and drive the piss out of it.
No kidding.
Just try. It has to be driven.
And this engine has it traces its origins back to the original, like the 930 turbo motor. It has like, I don't know the exact detail. I know that has like some sort of shared DNA with that motor, which was also incredibly robust. So this is they
overbuild them, and you can spend $3,000. Let's say $6,000. And you get this thing up to 500 wheel horsepower, and you're smoking whatever on the
everything.
Road. Yeah.
I don't really have a ton to say, because it kind of makes me hyperventilate a little bit, because I'm like, I should just sell everything,
because it's not that far out of reach.
It's not.
No,
it's like you could really, if you were committed enough within a year or two, most people could swing something.
Could figure this out, right?
You could figure out how to make it work.
You could sell a few things. You could, sock away some money, take out a modest loan to, get across the finish line if you're not a Jeff Bezos. And honestly,
you could swing this.
You could absolutely swing it.
You're committed enough.
When you see it and you're just like, holy shit, it's 911 turbo.
Let's look at this picture.
John, what do you think?
Oh, iconic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a heck of a deal. It really is one heck of a deal. You're getting a really great car for a really good price. I mean, it's a 35,000 mile. You don't have to worry about the IMS bearings. It's a 911 turbo. I mean, this is kind of, if you look at pricing, this is kind of in that 911 turbo zone of that 996 era. I mean, I'll just say personally, the 996 is not my favorite, just from a looks perspective.
You've said that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty animated about that, but it's, you're getting a great deal with this thing. I mean, you're going to be really happy with this car. I mean, don't you just keep it maintained, and let's just say you go to sell it in a couple years time, you're probably going to, break even, for God's sakes, on this thing.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I still cannot get over the price.
And again, this is a pretty top example. I mean, you can type in 996 turbo. You could get one with 60-70K, which, after seeing the guy with over 500,000 miles, I don't know if I care.
No, not at all.
Like with 150, I mean, it's a 20-year-old car.
I mean,
so 35K is almost too low. It's had 1,300 miles a year on it. It's almost too low. There's no such thing as too low.
No, and I would even this is, given what I keep reading about the reliability, I would even I'd roll the dice on like a salvage title.
Yeah,
You know,
dude,
something
I
that
don't
has
know
like reconstructed.
Really?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
I will say though, if you had to rebuild, if something did fail and you bought a piece of junk and say you had to rebuild the engine, it's still a Porsche. I'm sure if something did happen and like the PSM or PASM, Porsche active suspension management, like I'm sure.
But I mean, I think
that
it's all, but you just jump to the aftermarket at that point.
Yeah,
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 that's the nice thing about these cars, and even the M3 we discussed about, is that there is a huge aftermarket for these things. You know, that you're not stuck with, you know, if you can't find something exactly factory, there's something out there that
there is a huge aftermarket.
Even
you're right.
DeMuro shared this week that his Carrera GT, he put KW coilovers on it. So I mean, like,
really,
you know, that guy got $1 million supercar in his garage. He's putting KWs.
It's one of the it's one of those weak points. I someone will correct me, maybe, but the Carrera GT, the shock towers or something with the shocks, they crack.
Oh, really?
It's a common
he did
problem.
Say it was like, it was not for vanity. It was like proactive.
Well, they're going. It's one of those things. It's not they may crack. It's when are they going to crack?
Okay.
And it's, you know, your shock is free from the car. So you probably saved 20 grand by going that route. Yeah.
At a time. Yeah. So yeah, so I mean, to this, you know, that, and honestly, the biggest issue with 996s is, you know, total engine failure. And what kills me is that mine with the non-Mezger engine would be, it would be like it'd be total like
catastrophe.
Done, you know, not going to do it, not going to save it, because a used engine is probably, you know, 9 to 11K, and then you got to install it. And so
it's a 20K thing.
It's a 20K thing. So you do look at that and say, well, I'd rather own a version of the 996 that is not prone to catastrophic engine failures than also happens to be a turbo, because I don't really know, you know, I don't really know that you'd see a significant difference in running costs, assuming you're not running to the dealer for every service and replacing everything with OEM parts. There's a guy, Bradley Brunell, who was the founder of Radwood, who has since moved on to other things after he sold Radwood to Haggerty. He actually bought a 996 turbo that was really super rough, like
really
missing front bumper, lots of cosmetic damage, and he's been slowly bringing it back to life. And I mean, he's just driving the doors off it. He's tracking it. He's using it as like kind of a quasi daily. And you know, he's not a multi-millionaire, and he's pulling that car together and is absolutely tickled with it. So I think, I mean, to buy a nice one, you're pretty insulated from the catastrophic failures that the other one, the non-turbos, are known for.
It's not the same proposition as like the X5M, where it's like you will run into something if you hold on to it for long enough. This is almost a car where you could buy this and this is my car. I'm going to have it until I'm, you know, old and gray and I can't drive anymore type of thing.
It's the can-do supercar. It really, you can do everything with it. I mean, if you wanted to daily this thing, you could take it to the track. You can take it in inclement weather with the four-wheel drive. I mean, it's like the kind of the Swiss Army knife of a air quotes, you know, high-end performance car. It does everything. You can do everything with it. So you're comfortable with it. It's not something you're going to stick in the garage and only use on, you know, bright sunny days that are over 75 degrees.
Agreed. Well said.
So now we've all got to take our favorites from the night, which is a very very hard choice. So I'll kick it over to you, Lars. Which one? I mean, is it really that much of a debate? Which one you're taking home?
Well, it actually might be for me. Really? I would probably, just very personally, money aside, I think I'd probably actually take the E30. I know that sounds dumb.
No.
And here's the thing. This is a better car. This is faster. This would be probably more fun to drive. I don't know. But this is the better car. But my heart, the E30, I mean, that's a car where every year for the next, until I die, it would be cooler and cooler and cooler to own. So I think that's
there's no doubt about it. This car is just oozing pure, and you know, I do think for a lot of enthusiasts, the late 80s were a high watermark for.
And dude,
I mean-
imagine this in 2050.
Mhm.
Also, they announced the next M3 will be electric, and the next Porsche 911 is going to be a hybrid. So, dude, in 20 years, this car is going to be.
You're going to be telling your grandkids will be like, they made this.
Yeah,
Grandpa?
like
Get it while you can.
This was a public thing. Yeah, you could
Yeah,
go
right.
and buy. You could just walk
You
in
could-
and buy it. It looked like this.
Yeah.
This thing is freaking awesome. What do you guys think?
John, go ahead.
I'm going with the M3. It's like
I
chewing
thought
a
you
lime
were
here.
saying the X5M. I thought that was
No,
You
no,
spoke so highly about it.
no. I mean, I have a very huge soft spot for 80s homologation cars. So, I mean, this could have been a tad of a sketchy M3, but I would still go for it. I mean, this is, as you guys talked about, this is the car that, 20 years from now, you're going to be the happiest. If you picked one of these cars in 20 years from now, you look back, you're like, this is the one car you're like, yep, I'm completely content. Granted, the Porsche is great. Not, as I said, not a huge fan of the 996 look, but the M3 is the way to go, guys. There's no doubt about it, and you'd have to really, really convince me otherwise. It's a race car. It's a race car. You can take this car out. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You can take this car out and you can live out your 80s touring car fantasies with this thing.
Yeah, and I will say, and I don't ever like to be that guy who looks like he's trying to be cooler than his shoes suggest, but the dog leg thing is kind of a big deal.
It is the biggest deal, because when you're driving on back roads, you're switching from second to third, and you're bing bang bing bang. People have no clue.
So, you guys know I have this
Cosworth,
ratty Cosworth that's becoming nicer every few months. And for a few months it lived here. And this for the cost, just for those of you who don't know, it's 86 190 Cosworth that I bought out of a salvage yard in Pennsylvania. It was rusty. It was sitting on its belly, no wheels, blah, blah, blah. It has been lovingly restored. The rust is all gone. It's sitting in primer right now and needs a few more mechanical fixes to really be, a truly reliable runner. But I had it here for a few months in between when it left my mechanic before the body shop ready to take it on. And so I was just driving it around, and I never, I heard people talk about a dog like gearbox, like, okay, whatever, big whoop. Everything you said, it feels like you're driving an actual track built vehicle. I mean, just that upshift. I mean, the way it affects everything. It affects how your feet work the pedals. It affects just your balance, and the way you synchronize your body around the car is almost completely different as a result of it.
And the only reason, remember this, the only reason that transmission exists, was to be faster in racing.
Right.
Wasn't like a CVT. It's like, oh, it's economical. It only existed so you could downshift into second and back into third quicker than having to go horizontally to get down into second, which is a pain in the ass, as everyone knows. It's only existing to be quicker. So that alone, just take me. 1986. I've been looking at these on the internet for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
It probably 9-10 years. I've never seen an 86, and no one wanted it.
Right. I know, it's unreal. And I always liked the first year models better, just because.
See, I'm a late model guy.
Okay.
Personally,
you want the second year?
Doors right there.
No, but I mean, I always thought the first year just, they were just interesting to me for whatever reason. They were kind of the first ones out of the gate. They were the prototype, kind of warmed over prototype. By the time the second year came out, maybe they had a few more things a little more refined. But in any case, I will agree with everyone. It's a very tough choice. I love this car as well. Maybe it's because I have its ugly cousin, the Cosworth, in the background. But I would I'm going to go with the 996 turbo, just because I feel like you look at every 911 turbo before this point. I mean, 993 turbos they're like 120,000 for a driver, not even a nice one. The 930s have, are a little bit more reasonable, but they're still like
they're getting real
Yeah.
up there. Same with the 964. It's
the
100K,
964
plus.
The 964 has blown up. I mean, that car, the
Yeah.
964 was so unloved, and now the turbos. I see the turbos sometimes eclipsing the 993. It's absolutely very rarely, but like really
It
low
happened.
mileage 964 turbos.
It's happened.
Are going for bananas money. And what's crazy about that is the 964 was not that great of a chassis. So, the turbo club, if you will, is very hard to get into. So, especially since I just read a phenomenal article this week from Road and Track about the 996 GT3. And the guy made a point, which is something I've felt since owning a 996, not trying to be a fanboy, but I'm just like, the 996 is closer to the 993 than everything that came after it. Like after the 996,
of course.
But and Lars even said you had a cut. What one did you have at the dealership this week or last week? What year was it?
It was a 991, so it was like a 2017, 2018.
And you were like, yeah, it's fast, it handles well, but you're like, it's generic.
Oh yeah, it just does everything so perfectly. It's
Yeah.
you know exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
Everything feels too perfect. It's so dialed.
Hmm.
It's almost like
It's too dialed.
idiot. Yeah, an idiot could drive it, which is cool. But it's like
But
and the thing is like 140 grand new. I mean, used, we were selling for like 95.
Yeah, I
And
know.
it's like-
I saw it's gone.
And that's not an enthusiast purchase. I
No.
hate to say that.
It's a
You're
Because
right.
at
No,
95 grand,
Perfectly said.
you're better off. You could even start to get into 997
And that's-
GT3 territory.
yeah. And that's what's
creep up there at
Right.
90 grand.
And that's what's crazy to me is so like the 996 turbo, despite the 996 getting a ton of crap for its looks and being water cooled, it's still spiritually, and I hate using that word like that's like total car nerd, like spiritually,
No.
but it's still closer to the 993 than anything that came after it.
Yeah,
And
and you push a button on this thing, 700 horse. Not actually, but if you want to get this thing to 600, 700, 800
Oh,
horse,
yeah,
you
you can do
can
it.
ease. And the thing is, the transmission will take it. The
Block
motor will
will
take
take
it.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm spewing about this thing now, but I will say, as diehard as I am about the E30, I understand why you took this one. You could, and do yourself a favor, look up tuned 996 turbo on YouTube. The whistle and the spool, these things just spool it idle like no one's business. It's a really, really cool driver's car, really cool enthusiast car, and quick.
And again, much like that E30 M3, in 10 years, you're going to look at this listing and say, holy shit,
The same
Yeah.
way when you look at the ones from
I could have bought one of these for 67.5. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah. So anyway, but Lars, this was an awesome roundup. You really good job smoking these out because
it's just stuff that spoke to me.
oh man, I hadn't seen these this week, and I think I would have been questioning a lot of my life's decisions if I were watching this one in real time because
This is a good 3-car garage. The
Yeah.
E30,
Yeah.
the Porsche,
well, I mean, except it should be a G wagon instead of the X.
I do like the side pipes on a G-Wagon. I'll give them that.
Hey, awesome discussion this week as always. Lars, thank you for attending in
course.
person, and John, who has had a newborn at home for the duration of this show, thank you as always for being here and for recording us.
Absolutely.
So once again, this has been the commongear.com podcast. I'm joined by Lars and Jonathan Grabowski each week, and we're grateful you stopped in to check it out. We will be back within the next week to talk about 3 interesting sales on the premier digital auction platforms. And as always, check out the commongear.com to easily store and track all of your vehicle maintenance and records. And hopefully when it comes time to sell, you'll see the results we've seen, which is typically a 10 to 20% increase in your sale price. So check it out. It's free to register, free to store your records. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.